From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast. Featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell. Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Duran Miller. And finally, he wears his hair upside down, and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw. Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razor Wire.
Welcome back to another edition of the Razor Wire, this time on Thursday, where we hope to have a new home for the program. Today, we're going to have a lot going on. We're going to talk about the big win over Arkansas State. We're also going to talk about basketball roster and assistant coach movement going on the Hill, as well as some more transfer portal news and a look ahead at a big-time matchup this weekend at Tennessee. So we got a lot to talk about on today's show, but I want to welcome in Brad Caldwell, Duran Miller. I'm Bill Harshaw, and we got a couple things that we want to touch base on, kind of hot off the razor wire, so to speak. And the first and foremost thing, Courtney Deifel, SEC Coach of the Year.
Courtney Deifel takes a program that was 1-23 in conference 5 years ago, and she is one of she's one of three teams now that have actually won the SEC since 2007, which was Alabama, Florida, and now Arkansas. So congratulations to Coach Deifel. It's always big when you win the SEC Coach of the Year, no matter what sport it is.
Yeah, huge accomplishment by her and the Ladybacks. Just did an excellent job this year. They got a bunch of awards, and she had an interview, and she talked about, it's not just her, it's her assistant coaches and everybody that got them to this point. And Mary Half, she got SEC Co-Pitcher of the Year. Braxton Burnside got All SEC First Team. So did Danielle Gibson. She was First Team All Defense. And then Hannah McEwen, Danielle Gibson, and Autumn Storms all got All SEC Second Team. And Jenna Bloom, All SEC Newcomer of the Year. So all of our Newcomer of the Year team. So all of those are huge accomplishments, and she's really got that program running well right now.
Absolutely. And all those different accolades that are coming in for the softball team are well-deserved. Deifel has certainly got things going in the right direction there at the park.
Yeah, and they kick off that SEC tournament tonight. 5 p.m., I believe, on the SEC Network.
Which will be right after we'll actually have premiered this right after, but they'll be playing about that time. So
right, finishing up.
Yeah.
Kevin Kopps, he picked up some more accolades. National Pitcher of the Week by perfect game. Kevin Kopps continues to lock things down on the mound.
Kevin Kopps had 2 days where he recorded 3 inning saves. One of them was actually a 4 1/3 inning save there against Georgia, which he basically, pardon the pun, but he saved our bacon by picking up 2 saves over the weekend. I heard Coach Van Horn say, basically we want to get 100 pitches out of him every weekend. So basically you've got another starter in that mix by throwing 100 pitches with him.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Brett.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. He got the save and he got a win. So he moved to 7 wins on the year, 7 saves. He is the nation's best. He leads the nation with a .72 ERA. Over his last 49 and 2 innings, or 49 and 2/3 of innings of work, he's pitched 83 strikeouts, and he's also gone 17.2 consecutive scoreless innings while striking out 29 and allowing only 7 hits and 2 walks in the process. So, I mean, he has been just nasty, and it don't get any hotter, any more dominant than what Kevin Kopps has been doing.
Leads
And
the
he
nation
attributes
in ERA as well.
Yeah, that's it. And he attributes it all to beet juice. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be a national shortage of beet juice in the future after Kevin Kopps made that little announcement. But that was
That and Badger's milk.
And Badger's milk, yes.
Always.
So, Kevin Kopps, and I mean, he steps up on the mound and just locks things down. And it's good to have that closer. It really is.
Absolutely.
Brad, what else we have off the razor wire today?
Nick Fullwider has entered the transfer portal. He was class of 2018, moved from defensive end to defensive tackle, 6'7", 290-pound guy, big fella there in the middle. But Arkansas had just brought in 3 defensive linemen Fullwater really hasn't had a ton of impact since he's been at Arkansas.
Yeah, he was. I remember when we picked him up when he committed, and then he finally signed. I was really excited about him because he reminded me of you remember the defensive end Jamal Anderson that played for the
Mm-hmm.
Hogs, and he was kind of like a wide receiver in high school, and that made him an end, and he ended up being a big time draft pick. Played for the Falcons, some other teams over the years. He kind of was in that mode, I thought, and I was really hoping for some big things from him, but just didn't work out. And like you said, we got all those incoming guys, and I think he's seen that his options were maybe limited a little bit on how much he was going to get on the field. So he decided to move elsewhere. That's going to happen in this day and age of this transfer portal.
It will, and I mean that's just one of the things that is going to happen, especially when you're using the transfer portal like Sam Pittman is. He's bringing in guys that he knows that he needs, and so the guys that are on the team are like, "What am I chopped liver? I'm going to go somewhere else," and he's just trying to find the right fit.
Absolutely. Finally, as far as player movement, Amarion Harris commits to Arkansas. Big 6'7", 370-pound mountain of a man. Has committed to Arkansas. 4-star prospect. Chose Arkansas over a litany of our offers: Alabama, Georgia, Missouri, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma.
So yeah, that's a big time recruit right there. He comes out of Pulaski Robinson, big kid. All of these offers. I mean, when you have pedigree from Alabama, Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, I'm not really going to include Mississippi State in that conversation, but the thing is that lets you know that this guy is a stud, and he turned down Alabama. What kind of kid's going to turn down the number one team powerhouse in the country to go to Arkansas? That means he wants to be here, and I'm excited about that.
That's right. Who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to go to Alabama? I don't even know what's going on down there. But anyways, no, that's a huge pickup, and he's a legacy. That's Elliott Harris' son. Elliott Harris is a good defensive lineman, defensive end back in the day. So I mean, that's a big pickup. That dude is a monster, and we are building some size on that line. And in a couple of years from now, man, it's really going to be exciting to see how they work all that out. And see if we become the road graders again, like we were Pittman's the year they had Skipper and can't remember all of them at this moment, but Bray Cook was still part of that team, and they just had some monster size on that line.
Absolutely, and so I mean, Pittman continues to recruit the guys that he needs, and I think Odom has a lot to do with that as well. Barry Odom bringing in the defensive guys. He brought in some from Missouri and some that he had other contacts with. So I'm really excited about what's going on up the hill for Razorback football.
Absolutely. It's been a good thing. It's been a long time since you could get excited about Arkansas, but you can see the things that are happening right now. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It is. So that's the things that we have, kind of fresh tidbits, hot off the razor wire, things that are coming out of Fayetteville. But looking back, a couple of days ago, we had a big time win over Arkansas State. First time matchup between these two teams. What did you guys think?
Well, I thought Arkansas did what they were supposed to do. I don't know that they played particularly well, but they still won the ball game. I think Arkansas State was ready. They were fired up to play. Had a really good pitching performance for about 5 innings, but the depth of the Razorbacks ended up being the difference in the ball game, and Arkansas was able to cruise to an 8-4 victory.
Yeah, thanks for Caden Wallace and that one swing. It's really the difference in the game. We won 8-4, and he got 4 of those ribbies in right there on that one swing. Took that to right field, hit it off the net out there in front of the new where they're expanding out there, and they said it was a slider. And Dave Van Horn said, they knew as soon as it went off the bat. They say he does that all the time in VP. But we got a lot of things. That was kind of a showcase, really, in my opinion, for our pitching and who's going to help us moving on down the season. Wiggins got that start, did an excellent job, and we may have a sneak peek of that later. That may be something we're going to see from this weekend because of his performance. Lots of guys came in. Lockhart had a good showing. But Connor Nolan, I'm really excited about because he looked awesome in that final inning, and he was just, and his stuff was just working. Dave Van Horn really touched on how just amazing, the best he's seen him pitch in a long time.
Yeah, it looked good. That was very encouraging. I mean, you're a team right now that you're kind of looking at a third starter. You're trying to find who that third starter is. I think Jackson Wiggins is going to be the guy that's going to start this weekend. But Connor Nolan, can we get him going to a point where maybe he is that guy? I mean, you're talking about a guy that was a Friday night guy,
Right.
and so now he's not even in the mix. Injuries, all the kind of stuff going on with him. But I do agree with you, Duran. He looked fantastic. That final inning there closed them out, and it was a great, encouraging sign for the Hogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Dave Van Horn did have a chance after the game to talk about the pitching. Since we're talking about pitching, let's go ahead and hear what Dave Van Horn had to say about Jackson Wiggins and the rest of the pitching staff.
I thought he did a really nice job. Just watching him and seeing him moving around a little bit before the game. He seemed calm but confident, and I think he was ready to go. He threw a lot of strikes, and it was really good to see. 30 pitches, 31 pitches. That's about all we really wanted him to throw, and that's what he did. And we'll go from there. And then for the pitchers that haven't gotten to pitch much lately, or have had outings that haven't gone their way and they haven't been on the mound for a while, you could tell they pitched a little bit of an attitude, even though it was a one inning situation or two hitters. I mean, Nolan, it wasn't real good at LSU his first time back. It was real good today and tonight. And then, even Vermillion, he gets one hitter, and it looked good. It looked good coming out of his hand. And Lockhart, like I said, that might have been some of the best stuff he's had. And he gave us 2 strong innings, had good velocity, command. It was really good to see.
So that's Coach Dave Van Horn talking about the pitching staff. He also went back and also reviewed some of the mistakes that were made in that Arkansas State game. And, there were a little bit of a sloppiness. And here's what he had to say about that.
Yeah, the game got a little sloppy there at the end for us, obviously. But I thought we pitched extremely well. Take away maybe one guy, maybe two, but we threw, I guess, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 pitchers. I felt like that Wiggins came out and did a really nice job. Pretty much sat 96, 98. Scoreboard's never right. I thought Heston did a tremendous job as well. Came in, quick inning. Lockhart probably about as good as he's been in a while. Maybe his stuff was really good tonight, and that was really good to see. And Vermillion, came in and just let it go and threw the ball extremely well. And then obviously, I guess something that stands out a little bit is Nolan at the end. He had really good stuff. Hard slider, fastball, 92, 93. Pretty much every pitch. And it was good. It was good to see those guys because we're going to need as many as we can down the stretch. And on the offensive side, put together a couple of innings. Just glad that we were able to get a win, kind of a game between 2 big series, big series coming up. And, we did just enough to win. So good win for us. I mean, obviously we had a pop up and it was hit really high, right in front of home plate, right in front of the mound. The first baseman, in our opinion, had it under control, and third baseman came in and called him off. And he didn't catch the ball. The pop up to the catcher, we could tell from the dugout that he had overrun it, and he's 18 years old. He could be a senior in high school graduating right now. But he's here, and he hadn't played in a while. So what do? You can't really get on him about that. The pop up in the infield, yeah. And then Battles, he hadn't made a play like that all year. He started to take the ball out of his glove to flip it, and he dropped it. I mean, I guess better now than this weekend. That's all I can say. But I don't know what to tell you. It contributes to that. I think that it's a midweek game at the end of conference play, and we needed to get through this game so we could get to thinking about Tennessee.
So again, that's Dave Van Horn kind of recapping the Arkansas State victory. It was a big win for Arkansas, and it's a good game for the state.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's interesting. It's a real interesting dynamic with the whole thing because, for years and years and years and years, you don't play Arkansas State. And now you're starting to see that happen. You're going to see it. They're probably going to play in basketball this next year. You're seeing Arkansas play UALR, your Central Arkansas now. Everybody does it. Everybody, except Arkansas up until now. I get where when Frank Broyles came in, we talked about the Frank Broyles factor here in this whole situation. Frank Broyles came in, he was trying to unite the state behind the Razorbacks. So he was in South Arkansas, he was in Eastern Arkansas, he was in Western Arkansas. He was everywhere trying to get the Razorback brand built. He did that, and that's why he did not want Arkansas to play Arkansas State, because he didn't want Arkansas State to have any kind of foothold at all. And so for that, I understand where he was coming from. But now where we're at, the foothold is with Arkansas. Obviously, the state is behind the Razorbacks. I think that's the way it's always going to be. You've got to be able to beat Arkansas State on the fields, on the court, whatever it is. Are you going to lose every once in a while? Yes. I mean, if you play in baseball enough, you're going to lose. I mean, UALR, they beat Arkansas last year. It's like 17-3, or 2 years ago it was.
Yeah.
Arkansas ended up in the College World Series. So, it's going to happen. Those football matchups, you got to win those. You got to make sure that you win those games. Basketball as well. But, Arkansas is going to lose to Arkansas State at some point in something. So, but it's not going to change the dynamic of where the state is.
Right. Like we touched on it last week, you'd have to really lose a lot, like consecutive times for that to really become an issue. And I just don't see it happening. We're going to have our down years. If Chad Morris was here when we, that year we lost to Western Kentucky and everybody else, would we have lost Arkansas State that year? Probably, just because of the way things were going. And that was kind of a unique situation. And even in Arkansas's down years, we're usually, we're an SEC team. Like I remember back in Houston Nuts days, even we'll just go there, or Bielema even. But, those teams were still built from the inside out, and they were big, and they could just run the ball every play basically and wear you down and finally get that victory. I remember McFadden's last year. We played Tennessee Chattanooga in Little Rock. I was at that game at War Memorial. And, I sat actually by Tennessee Chattanooga's dad's, the punter's dad. And he'd been making jokes before the game even started about how he was just so excited about his son was going to set the all-time Chattanooga record for most punts in a game that day. And he was awesome. He was really fun. And but that game was like so close. I mean, we were getting worried. And there, how like at soccer games they have those little weird horns they blow and stuff. And a bunch of their guys had that, and they were blowing that the whole time. Man, I was getting upset. I was like, God, it was starting to finally drive me crazy at some point. But we finally broke through, and McFadden ran over a dude, just trucked him. And I think that's when he bruised his ribs, and he wasn't the same for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that's when he went from Heisman front runner to kind of slowly kind of faded away for a little bit, and then he came back on. But that's when Tebow started gaining momentum right in then. And then finally McFadden came back and was on a roll again. He had the South Carolina SEC game. But anyways, so that's just one of those things where Arkansas State, we might lose one every once in a while, but we're going to, dominate that for the most part. And it was really good for the entire state.
It is good for the state. Now, here's my issue about playing the Arkansas States, is strength of schedule. Now, if you're thinking about this on a baseball, maybe in a basketball sense, it doesn't really play too much into it. But on the football side, I think it does. When you're trying to compete and you're trying to, have that strength of schedule to say, look, here's our proven record. We have beat these guys. You don't want to have a cupcake. And I'm not saying that Arkansas State necessarily is that cupcake, but it's definitely not scheduling a Notre Dame. It's not scheduling, one of these bigger, stronger schools. And so that's the part that I have. I think it's great for the state of Arkansas. I would love to personally watch that game every year. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
It was a good time.
But I think what I would honestly like to see, if we're going to play Arkansas State, let's get Arkansas State beefed up so that when we play them, we can say, look, they are a quality opponent.
Yeah. Well, Arkansas State has been a good lower level team. I'll tell you one thing to compare this to, and boy, Arkansas State fans may kill me for this, but it would be kind of like a 6A, 7A football squad playing a really good 4A team. You know what I mean? Where, you don't want to lose to the 4A team. I'll give you an example of this was just a few years back when Russellville was playing Pottsville. And Russellville almost got beat in the first matchup. The second matchup, they did get beat. Nobody wanted to live it down because, the 4A team, the little bitty school, beat the big school. Well, it's kind of the same thing with Arkansas State. The 4A team, Arkansas State, really good 4A team, very good program throughout the years. But as a 5A, 6A, 7A school, you don't want to lose to that 4A team because you're not supposed to ever. That's on the football field. It's a little different on baseball and basketball, just like it is in high school. High school basketball, high school football, you can kind of match those teams up, baseball as well, and win. It's a little different on the college ranks too. So it's okay for Arkansas to be able to lose in baseball every once in a while. I don't know about basketball as much, but you don't want to lose to them in football. My biggest question is, will the Arkansas Sports Network be at that 2025 game at War Memorial Stadium?
That's where I want to be. Sign me up.
It's a long time away, but hey, you know what? That would speak a lot about the success of the Arkansas Sports Network if we were able to do that.
Absolutely, it would. Also we have some movement going on up on the Hill basketball rosters. Some little bit of new assistant coaches coming in. Duran, tell me what you know about all that.
Yeah, Keith Smart coming in, big time get there by Coach Musselman. This guy has so much experience on the NCAA and the NBA level. He coached with with Musselman. He coached under Musselman with the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. He was an assistant and just did an excellent job. And, this guy hit that big shot with Indiana in the Final Four back in the 80s. And he's been around it. He's going to be excellent for recruiting. And I love that the Razorback staff has so many ties with the NBA, and prospects have to look at that and they have to be like, man, this is a place I want to go because they've got so many connections. I'm going to get the best feedback I can get. I'm going to get coached by people that are going to coach me like they know what works in the NBA and just can just give so many like insider trade secrets for getting to that next level kind of thing. And it's a great pickup. Musselman's done an excellent job like he always does. We lose guys and we're like, man, that was a good assistant we just lost. And then he'll pick a guy up like Smart and you're like, all right, here we go. We're rolling.
And he seems to always pick up guys that he has experience with.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that makes you feel even better.
I want to know how hard it is to coach with Musselman because you have guys like Patrick and Harris or Williams that are leaving. And then you've got guys like Arginal and Smart who have worked with him before that come back and work with him. So I think it's a mindset that you have to have working with Musselman saying, okay, we are going to work. We're basketball people. If you're not all in 100% on basketball, then maybe Arkansas is not the place for you as a coach or a player for that matter.
Exactly. This is a business. He's running a business here and he's in it to win it. There ain't no messing around with Coach Musselman and his staff.
And I think you're right. I mean, it goes back to, finding people that can work his system and understand his mindset and work well together. And, some of these guys that he's been coaching with, they may or may not see it as an eye to eye. But these guys that he's worked with before, he wouldn't be bringing them on to work with him again here at Arkansas if he didn't think that they would buy into his system and knew what he did. So I don't think these new coaches that are coming in, they're not going to find themselves, in too deep of a water.
Oh, for sure. I think that's 100%. They know what they can expect from Musselman. And, you got to get some players on board to kind of feel the same way at this point. I mean, but looking at what we've got on the roster right now, I'm telling you, man, this Razorback basketball team, they are probably going to be as talented as we've had since the 94-95 season. We had a pretty good team this year. They did good things. They gelled together. But as far as just talented roster, this is going to be as talented a roster as we had another transfer, Jackson Robinson. My question is, does Jackson Robinson is his transfer, does it mean a ton? Because he was a big time player in high school, but since he's been at Texas A&M, not Arkansas State, at Texas A&M. He has been right. He hasn't been that, he didn't make a huge splash, but he's got all of the intangibles that you need. 6'7" height, plays point guard, that sort of thing. He's got some potential.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential. And Arkansas wanted this guy big time out of high school, and we're really hot on him. And he ended up going to A&M, but it all panned out. He gets a year bigger there. Now he's here as a freshman. I mean,
Right.
it's going to be. I mean, it's really a match made in heaven for us. And we needed some more outside shooting. And he's 6'7", can stretch that floor and do that. So I mean, I think he's got that Butch McCray kind of build to him. If we're going to go back to blue chips and Penny Hardaway, if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about there, but I think he's going to do a good job for us, and he's really going to stretch that defense. It'll be fun to see how Musselman works him into the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to the roster as a whole, this is a big time roster right now, as big as we've had. And man, it's hard not to get excited about Razorback basketball right now with all of the moves. And like you lose a David Patrick and you think, man, that stinks. That's a good coach. And then you get a Keith Smart. It's like,
Right.
did we just upgrade? I mean, honestly, I'd like to be able to see the staff stay together a little bit more, have a little bit more cohesion. Right. You've got a huge class in the state of Arkansas in 2022. That Arkansas needs to make some waves with. I think they have with the Elite Eight appearance that they've had. But at the end of the day, they've got to be able to get these kids on campus, and a lot of that has to do with relationships.
Yeah, Joseph Pinion already committed, Darian Ford, Nick Smith Jr., just a few of the names of the huge class that's coming in. So I'm excited about it. Jackson Robinson, he's another positionless kind of a guy. He's 6'7", so he could play multiple spots there. And I'm excited about what Muss is doing and what we're going to look like next season.
I think we're going to look more talented than what we were. I mean, we thought we had a pretty good team last year going to the Elite Eight, and I think they were very, very talented. We lost a couple of guys, and we talked about that already, that transfer portal things, that's going to happen. We got to work on that, build off of that. But with what we're bringing in, both on the court and on the sideline, I think this basketball team is going to be something to be reckoned with.
The question is going to be, how do they gel? Last year we took a lot of moving parts, put them together. At first, remember, at first of the season, this looked like a bunch of guys that were doing their own thing, and somehow they were being able to win. And then, at the first of the SEC season, it didn't look very good, 2-4 or something like that starting off.
Yeah.
And then it was 11-game win streak, and everything was well, and you make the Elite Eight, and you lose to the eventual national champion, and then you could have made the argument that at that time you're playing as good as anybody but Baylor in the whole thing. So, it worked together. At this point in Muss, I trust, right?
That's
right,
it.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say is my biggest concern would be Justin Smith, losing him, because he was such an important player. I don't think a lot of people even realize the level he was on, what all he did for this team. And it was evident when we went, when he was out, when we went on that losing streak. So other than that, but like you said, put your trust in Muss. I think he's going to figure out the pieces, and there might be a stretch early on where they're figuring all that out. It may be to SEC play a few games in before they really figure it out. But I do trust that he will get it going. And they've got the pieces to really be special.
And it's something definitely to look forward to. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And something else to look forward to is Arkansas's matchup with Tennessee. And we're going to look forward to that here in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Razor Wire in just a moment. Back here at the Razor Wire, where we're going to look ahead at this week's big matchup at Tennessee. And I tell you what, this is going to be a big one. We had a couple series left for the Diamond Hogs as we prepare to make our final trek towards Omaha. And standing in our way is Tennessee.
Huge matchup again. And You got to wonder how many more can Arkansas win. I mean, they're 9-1 against top 10 opponents. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Think about that. Against the top 10, they're 9-1. They have 8 other losses against Auburn, Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama. Yeah, so they get up for this type of matchup. They're going to be up for this one against Tennessee, and Tony Vitello. He's got those guys playing some ball over there.
Yeah, he's got a couple assistants on his staff that also have Arkansas ties. So it's not just Tony Vitello. There's Josh Elander, Luke Bonfield. From everything I've always heard about Vitello, he's just a huge player, players coach. He's loved. He's real intense, but he's just a guy that he kind of draws people to him. He's kind of magnetic. And, I'm excited about this series. Arkansas, we have once Wallace hit that home run the other day, he moved from 9 to 10. And now we've got 5 guys, double-digit home runs. Tennessee only has 1. They're still very good pitching, very good hitters. They're really good average hitters. And so Tennessee opened it up, the crowd. And, they don't have a big place over there, about 4,000, a little over 4,000 they only hold in that stadium. Yeah, but it's going to be rocking. They're going to be ready for it. And, the Vols haven't had a lot of success lately in a lot of their other sports. So they're really, really excited about this one. And it's going to be a fun series this weekend.
It absolutely is. And Dave Van Horn, he knows the significance of this game, as well as looking ahead to Florida. And he recapped, kind of looked ahead, I should say, to these big matchups. Let's take a listen to Dave Van Horn.
Well, they have an older team, very athletic. They like to steal bags. They'll put some pressure on you if they can, but they've started hitting the ball out of the park the last few weeks. And that's been a big part of their offense is the home run. Probably for the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. They've hit the ball out of the park a lot, but their pitchers throw a lot of strikes. They don't put you on. They compete hard. They've been really good at home. They've been good everywhere, obviously. So, they're well coached. They're hard nosed. They're on a mission. They look like it's a fun bunch to be around. We're going to do what we have to do to try to win a game or two. And we got to bring in Wiggins to close a game, or, Lockhart or Nolan or any of these guys, Vermillion. We're just going to try to take them one at a time. We've got 6 games left against, 2 really good teams, and every win is precious. So we're just going to try to get them.
So that's Coach Dave Van Horn, kind of looking ahead at Tennessee and a little bit of Florida, but he's looking on the other side of the field down that first base line, or the third base line when he goes to Florida or to Tennessee. But he's going to look across that field and he's going to see a familiar face.
Yeah, Vitello was a guy that I think has actually helped Arkansas go to the next level. If you look at the way the Razorbacks were before he got there to where they are now, it's a completely different deal than it was. I mean, you're staring at a 3rd straight College World Series in a row for Arkansas. Now, Arkansas was making it about once every 3 years at one point. Well, now it's 3 in a row, really, with no signs of it stopping anytime soon. And I think Tony Vitello had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe Opitz was the only guy still left on the team that was here that he helped recruit and help seal that deal. But like you said, he got us to another level. If y'all remember, the Arkansas staff really spent a little bit more money on scholarship-wise and stuff on pitching than they did hitting. Our pitching was always one of the top towards the SEC. Batting was always a little closer to the middle of the pack. And I felt like there was a little bit of a change there. And that happened during the Vitello years. And they've done a good enough job to keep it elite on both sides. And that's what's really hard to do. You know how recruiting in baseball is so different, because you got guys that you draft, they go straight to the pros, and then you got guys leaving after their junior year, they might be coming back, so it adds a whole new dynamic to it. But he's a great coach, and it's cool when you see a guy that he really went to Arkansas to learn to be a head coach. I mean, he had already been a great hitting coach, and that was the next thing. And Van Horn, it's cool to see guys branch out under that tree and have success like he's been having.
Let me throw this out there too about Tennessee. Tennessee's number 8 in the RPI. Their strength of schedule is number 26 in the country, and I just
Right.
there's the difference. There's a difference in what Arkansas has done, what Tennessee's done. Don't get me wrong. I think Tennessee's a very good team. Arkansas may go lose 2 of 3 over there, may get swept. Who knows? But looking at Tennessee, their quadrant one wins are 12-8 versus quadrant one. All right, so I'm going to go to Arkansas. I'm going to show you what Arkansas is. Arkansas is 23-5 at home. They are 18-6 against quadrant one teams. Okay, quadrant one teams means that they are top 75 wins at home, or I'm sorry, on the road, and top 25 wins at home. Arkansas's 18-6 against those. They're 8-3 against quadrant two, 5-0 against quadrant three, 6-0 against quadrant four. There's not a lot of holes that you can poke in that resume,
Right.
along with the number one strength schedule in the whole country.
Yeah, that's one thing you look at. People that bet on games and stuff, insiders. Those are the kind of stats that you pull up and you go over and analyze because, on paper, Arkansas is definitely proven to be the better team. But you're going to Tennessee. It's gotten tight now. Arkansas may have a little bit, or they definitely have some pressure right now. Even though I feel like this team does an excellent job of not worrying about that, and they play better, like you just talked about, in those big games. But Tennessee is now tied us. We're tied now for the overall best record in the SEC for the first place. And this series is gigantic. It can't get any bigger. If you win 2 out of 3 here, we don't want to talk about sweep. That would be just crazy. But if you win this series, you are really setting yourself up pretty. Finishing out with Florida, which is another. It's going to be the same way when we get to that one.
And not only that, but you have Mississippi State in the West that's nipping at our heels. They're one game behind now. They dropped one at South Carolina, and we dropped one as well. So we're still one game ahead of them, and we don't want them catching up. So I'm with you, Duran. I think a sweep would be great. We haven't lost a series, yet in anywhere. Let's knock on wood there. But it's a big time game at Tennessee, and then you go to Florida. Those are 2 big, crucial matchups against top tiered teams. And so, this is what makes your medal. These are the type of teams that you're going to have to face when you get to Omaha. And so that's where I start getting concerned is, you never want to lose a game. But do you want to lose one now, or you want to lose one later? Or you can't pick both. Where do you look? What are your concerns?
Right. Actually, like you just said, this is the kind of teams you're going to face when you get to Omaha. But actually, Omaha might be easier than Arkansas's schedule this season in the SEC. Ain't that awesome? That's incredible to even be able to say that and not feel like you're just being like cocky or biased towards the SEC. It's legitimately that tough. And we won 8 SEC series in a row, and that is now consecutively. That's an Arkansas record. And let's get 10. That would be amazing. But big stuff.
Yeah,
Speaks to how tough though the SEC is. The fact that
Definitely
you've won 8, this is your 8th.
8 consecutive. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and you're still
going back to
Mississippi State is nipping at your heels right now.
Yeah.
Right there at you, and you swept them. That's the craziest thing.
If we hadn't swept them, we'd be tied.
Exactly. And one of the things that I'm looking at is, you talk about that this schedule that what Arkansas has may be tougher than Omaha, and I see where you're going with that. But you also have to consider that of all of these teams that are going to Omaha, a lot of them are going to be SEC. And you want to make sure, when they start to seed those out and play with who's going to play who, you're going to be facing a lot of these SEC teams. And, that's when the Mississippi States or the Tennessees or Floridas, if we get down into Omaha and run into Mississippi State, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's real hard to do it 4 times.
Absolutely. It is. And the thing is, you're going to see SEC teams in Omaha for sure. So the question is going to be how many. I saw a projection that said 5 SEC teams in Omaha, 3 Big 12 teams. There's only 2 conferences that made it up. That's crazy in itself. Of course, you've got Texas and TCU Those two teams are
Texas
really good.
Tech.
Texas Tech. We've played all three of those teams already. TCU right now has the number 2 RPI in the country and are right now the overall projected number 2 seed behind Arkansas. Arkansas's already beaten them. I mean, there's a lot to point at right now. Arkansas is doing things on a level that I've not seen an Arkansas sports team do right now, baseball wise, with the dominance that they've had. Now, it doesn't look as dominant sometimes on the field because
Right.
they don't play as well sometimes as you would hope that they would, but then all of a sudden they find a way. And right now, we're talking about our biggest worries. My biggest worry for this baseball team is they start slowly. Seems like it takes them 1 or 2 times through the lineup, but once they get through it, they start pounding pitchers.
Yeah, and Dave Van Horn kind of talked about that a little bit, and some of that might be due to we haven't had a midweek game the last couple weeks, but we did this week finally, and I think they were excited to play that game. Part of you thinks coaches are like kind of have a relief there. They don't have this midweek game. They can kind of relax and get set up for the weekend, but at the same time, man, it really helps keep your lineup engaged. Baseball's that way. And kind of also let them work some things out on what they're going to do with some of the other pitchers, in relief or starters and stuff of that nature. But I think that's going to help us. Van Horn even said at one point in one of his interviews that, he's not having that midweek game. He feels like that's made us kind of slow coming out of the gate at times, because it's like baseball, it's like starting all over when you go 5 days without playing a game sometimes. So we'll see if that helps us and see if we come out early on Tennessee and get a good start. Hopefully we will.
The thing that I enjoyed about that midweek game against Arkansas State is the fact that Dave Van Horn did exactly what you're saying. Is he played with the lineup. He let some guys that otherwise didn't get a whole lot of playing time play, and he also played with the pitching. He wanted to see who he can count on, who's going to be that number 3 guy. Now, going into Tennessee, it's still to be determined, but we can look at Jackson Wiggins now, and we can know what he's going to have. We can look at Connor Nolan. He looked really good. And Lockhart looked really good. And so, he wanted to see what he had in the bullpen. And that game with Arkansas State, I think, came at a perfect time for Dave Van Horn to decipher all of these elements.
Dave Van Horn is maybe the best at getting his teams to play the best baseball at the right time, getting them down into SEC tournament and all that stuff, and then regional time. He's ready, and he'll tell you that it is something that he does purposefully, that he is going to get you ready for May, and that's where they're at right now. And it seems like if they can get these guys to come through and play well and pitch well, think about the arms that you added in the what they call the circle of trust right now. With Nolan and Lockhart, you've got guys that you can go to right there. Jackson Wiggins, we haven't seen him in a while, as you've said. If you add those 3 to the mix, I mean, wow, it will be on your hitting at that point. And we've talked about pitching as being the weak point of this Razorback team. I know that behind the scenes right now that Dave Van Horn feels like he's got a team that can win it all, and he's trying to push those buttons to make that happen.
Yeah, 100%. And you hit the nail on the head right there. He's looking ahead. Like I said earlier, that game was a showcase of things to help us out down the road. The game of Arkansas State I'm talking about with the pitching, and that's what he's concerned with, and that's what he's getting us ready and set up for. And you gotta love that's what their number one focus is, winning the College World Series. And I love it, and just really, really exciting. See how this plays out.
It's a big matchup, and you got to keep that momentum going. We have Tennessee. Don't want to look ahead to Florida, but we're going to do that. We have another big game coming up next week at Florida, and so how do you keep this momentum going?
Win. Just win, baby, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. I mean, you are out of superlatives at this point to say about this team and what they can and can't do. I don't know. At some point, it might be best if they lose a series. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but just a wake up call, I don't know. It's honestly, it kind of boggles my mind that we're this far in the season, they don't have double digit losses. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's something to really hang your hat on there. I mean, 37-9, 38-9, whatever it is. I mean, that's phenomenal. And then you've got these two series here with Tennessee and Florida that are big time series. What
Yep.
if you win both of them? I mean, what can you say at that point?
And lose the SEC.
Yeah.
Or get second.
And I guess you could. I guess you possibly could.
Right.
But you have to say this, though, that Arkansas has the 2-game de facto lead on Mississippi State because they swept them. And then you've got Tennessee is right there at your heels. You win that series there, you really put yourself in a good position to win the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. It's unreal how good they are. We talked a little bit about, the concerns, but because sometimes when you're watching them, you're like, you don't just feel like we're just dominating teams, but it's just, we got a Wicklander, we've got a Peyton Pallette, and you got a Cops coming in there, and Cops is so important to this team, and just all those things. And the lineup is so good. Like I said before, 5 batters over 10 home runs now. I mean, that when you're an opposing pitcher and you have to here comes Franklin, here comes Wallace. Oh, Opitz, by the way, he had like an excellent game series, batted over 400 in that series against last weekend.
Against Georgia.
Against Georgia. And
those pitchers are gonna be like, oh no, here comes Goodhart again.
Right.
It's
Battles,
Robert Moore. It's
Look at Battles hitting a home run, getting doubles, and just unreal. Just when you think finally we're at the 7, 8, 9 hole here, we can get a little bit of relaxation, a little bit, maybe get some easy outs. And no,
this lineup
still coming at you.
This lineup is definitely not top heavy. It is solid, straight down all the way to the bottom. And the pitcher that's on the mound doesn't have any relief from that. He can't be like, oh, if I get this guy, then I'll finally have a couple of easy outs coming up next. That doesn't happen with Arkansas. And I think it wears down the pitching. And so you'll have a pitcher that, is otherwise an outstanding athlete. And then, they're going to face the Arkansas's lineup and their pitch count's going to go up because we're fouling them off. His pitch count's going to go up because we lead the nation in walks. I mean, we're very patient at the plate, and it's going to cause all of these pitchers fits.
Yep, 100%. And I hope you all get ready, because what we're going to hear all weekend is that we all hate Rocky Top. That song, dude, it drives me crazy. The first Razorback game I ever attended, and it was in football, was we were playing Tennessee, and man, they just beat the drum on that all night long. It drove me absolutely nuts. But anyways, it's exciting. Let's go out there. I hope we get that big first win the first night, take a little pressure off, and just go from there. It'd be awesome to sweep Tennessee, but it would be a very tough thing to do, and incredibly impressive.
It will be, and I think it's a lot to look forward to. You're going to pick it up all right here on the Razor Wire. We're going to bring it to you. Stay tuned. If you haven't liked our page, go ahead and like that. Subscribe. You should look us up on Facebook. Look us up online at ArkansasSportsNetwork.com. We're here for you.
That's right. Let's go. I want to win this series. Be like Rocky, like, yo, Adrian, I did it.
They're going to be fired up. It's going to be a big series for sure. They're going to be fired up. And if Arkansas comes out of this one with a win, I mean, like I said, what can you say at this point? They've done everything that they need to do at this point. I don't care if they lose the rest of the games against Florida and then lose their first 2 in the SEC tournament. They're the number 1 overall seed, in my opinion.
They'd have to be.
I agree. And I don't know. We'll see how that lays out, if it does play out that way. But in my book, they are, and they've earned it. The RPI speaks for itself, strength schedule.
There you have it. Well, that's this week's episode of the Razor Wire. Stay tuned. We'll have another episode coming your way next Thursday, same time, same place, right here on
The Razor Wire.